Hello everybody and welcome to just outside MetLife Stadium where Notre Dame just beat Syracuse 31-15 to improve to 4-0 for the first time since 2012 and the second time since 2002. I'm Andrew Owens here with fellow staff writer Douglas Farmer. Douglas, it wasn't the prettiest game Notre Dame will play this year, but
it wasn't even close to the prettiest game they'll play this year.
What are the positives they can take away and what do they need to work on?
In a way, committing 5 turnovers but only giving up 15 points, you have to take that as moral victories aren't worth anything but a moral victory. And on top of that, Everett Golson's first quarter was one to forget about. Everybody wants him to be a Heisman contender. Well, I saw people saying, well, he's no longer the Heisman after that first quarter alone. But then he comes out, completes 25, 26 passes in a row, throws for 4 touchdowns. To see a guy struggle for the beginning of a game and then manage to refocus, that is extremely encouraging to me. As well as the defense holding tight. Whenever the ball's turned over, those 2 factors, yes, it was an ugly win. It was not pretty at all. That would never win a beauty contest. But to have those 2 factors, you have to feel good moving forward, no matter how good or bad Everett may have been.
Yeah, and I think the big thing from Everett is that he understands that he specifically needs to improve a lot.
He does.
And he has had a great September. Tonight, he had the 2 interceptions, the 2 fumbles.
Was it only 2 interceptions? Yes.
Yeah, because the second one was the interception for a touchdown.
Correct.
So he hadn't turned the ball over. So I think heading into the stretch of Stanford, North Carolina, Florida State, it's good for him to experience some failure, some adversity going into that, because he has that self-awareness now. He knows what he needs to do now.
And I mentioned the defense as well as Everett being the positives. The defense showing up so well, showing strong, heading into this stretch. Stanford's always such a tough, nitty-gritty game to have showed up, and Syracuse has, despite what the stats may be, and I didn't look before we started this, whatever they may have run for today, they're a much better running team than it showed. And this is because Brian Van Gorder's defense held them in check, and to do that against the Syracuse, you've got to feel better heading into Stanford having done that.
Yeah, they allowed, last week Syracuse rushed for 370 yards against Maryland. Tonight it was 135.
And 42 of that came off of punting.
Yeah, exactly.
So essentially they held Syracuse to less than 100 yards on the ground, and I didn't expect that at all.
And through 4 games they've allowed just the 1 rushing touchdown. That was tonight.
Which was going to happen at some point.
Yeah.
Let's not look at that as a failure at some point.
Looking ahead to Stanford. Stanford has 5 new offensive starters on the offensive line, so they're not really the Stanford we're used to.
Correct.
But at the same time, I think it's a very good litmus test for where this defense is as a rush defense.
Learning from a win like this, do you find that this is the best time to have it when you've got Stanford and I still maintain a trap game in North Carolina and somehow still undefeated Florida State coming up? Is this a good time to have a failing win?
Yeah, I think especially with Everett Golson, there needed to be some failure before this stretch. You know, that issue with the fumble, non-fumble, spike, that whole thing. Just the attention to detail and some sloppiness that they know what they need to correct and they can move forward in this difficult stretch moving forward.
I think that about does it for us outside of MetLife Stadium. We'll be back October 4th at Notre Dame Stadium when 4-0 Notre Dame takes on 3-1 Stanford at 3:30 on October 4th. Until then, stay tuned to blueandgold.com for all your news, information, and hopefully an update on whatever may or may not occur this week with some investigation you might have heard about.